Welcome back to Newsday. Now we can cross live to Cape Town, where President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is addressing the media following his farm scandal.
Realized into real investment. And we do forever have hope that a number of these pledges will indeed turn into real investments. And I have been to places where I have seen how companies that made pledges in various conferences that we have held have actually turned them into real investment. This does bring us within reach of the target we set in 2018 of attracting 1.2 trillion rand in investment over a 5-year period. The outcome of the conference shows renewed business and investor confidence in our economy and in our reform process. I would argue that many of these businesses who have come to these investment conferences would not be declaring their intention to invest further or indeed to invest in greenfield projects if they did not have confidence that we have indeed embarked on a reform process that can make their investments viable. In recent weeks, there's also been encouraging progress by law enforcement authorities in pursuing cases from state capture era. We've all read about some of these initiatives that they are making. These are the green shoots of recovery, but also of progress. These are the signs that we are indeed on the right track. Of course, many people may argue that we are not, but I can definitely say that the country is beginning to move in the right track direction. This should give us hope and confidence to forge ahead. We are not standing in one place, and we are moving forward. Honorable members, since the 6th administration took office in 2019, we've been seized with restoring state capacity and with forging whole of society partnerships with business, with labor and civil society on the actions that are needed to rebuild our economy. Building a capable state and restoring integrity and professionalism in the public service has been our foremost priority. What we have sought to do over the past 4 years is really to locate the presidency at the center of an integrated government, a government working together across all the various structures that are in our state. From this center, we've been leading the drive to reconstruct the nation's economy in a manner that is inclusive, a manner that leaves no one behind. In this year's State of the Nation address, I outlined our key priorities for the year that lies ahead. These priorities are to grow the economy and to create jobs, to fight corruption, make communities safer, build better lives for all our people, and make government work for the people of our country. We've been doing all this while working to ensure a swift recovery from COVID-19 pandemic and mitigating the impact of the recent floods that we have experienced. At the heart of our growth strategy is a bold and far-reaching economic reform agenda. These reforms are being driven by the relevant government departments as well as agencies and supported by Operation Vulindlela, which is an initiative in the Presidency and our Treasury. These reforms aim to achieve an affordable and reliable supply of electricity and efficient freight transport, amongst other things. They aim to achieve long-term water security for our country and our people, cheaper mobile data for all South Africans, and a visa regime that
Honourable
facilitates
Speaker, on a point of order.
tourism and investment.
Honourable Speaker, on a point of order.
Honourable Member, you have just stepped in and I have just made a ruling that I will not allow anyone to make a point of order because we've taken an hour.
But our members in the platform are muted, Speaker.
Everybody's muted.
Can you please unmute them?
Thank you.
Because you unmuted our members.
Thank you.
They are participating, so unmute them. There's no problem. Your ruling is right, but just unmute them. They're in the platform.
Honourable Member. Honourable Member.
Speaker.
Honourable Member, switch off your microphone.
Unmute our members in the
Will you
platform.
please switch off your microphone?
Are you going to unmute them?
Switch off.
Are you going to unmute them?
Sergeant at Arms, I'm now warning you.
No, citizens, answer for what?
I'm now
what?
available.
You're ruling from the air. Just from the air, no ruling like that. Unmute our members, then I will sit here. I will sit here. No certain harm to come to me. You must never come to me. Just unmute our members in the virtual platform, Honourable Speaker.
Will you please?
And we are not going to be addressed by a criminal. We are not going to be addressed by a money launderer. We are not going to be addressed by a criminal.
Honourable Member, will you please withdraw that?
And I'm not leaving.
Please withdraw that, Honourable
What are you
Member.
going to do? I'm not leaving.
Thank you very much. Sergeant at Arms, will you please remove the member from the House?
Unmute our members first. When rulers are from the air, for what? Certain arms for what? Are they members of parliament? Those are certain arms. No, I can't leave the chamber before they unmute our members in the platform. We are attending.
Thank you very much.
Attending here. This is our parliament, not for certain arms. This one is ours.
Okay. I have given you a further opportunity.
There's no opportunity like this. This one is not an opportunity. Give me a real opportunity.
Assisted by the Sergeant.
This one is not an opportunity that you are giving me.
As this conduct is now directly impeding the ability of the House to conduct its business,
you must first call the certain arms to take out the criminal first outside. The money launderer must be taken by the certain arms outside. Then you know, and you're criminal. And you lost seller and Zandi Bulale Bad Americana. Zandi Bulale Bad Americana, the Umbulalina. Umbulali, Maratato Asopandi. On my behalf, the Tela President Makume Wen, on my behalf.
Will you please? No. Protection services, you are taking too long. Please remove the member from the House. I have read the rule under which she is being
removed. Sorry, for what? I excuse you for what?
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members. May I just address Sergeant in Arms? Sergeant in Arms, when you have reported to me that they are refusing to leave the House, once I say now you may remove them, the PSS should move, the PPS must move with speech. Because what I've observed now is that they take too long to come in and do what they are expected to do. And in the course of that, they are delaying the House. Honorable Mr. President, you may continue with your speech.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now, these reforms aim on a long-term basis to ensure that there's water security in our country, there's cheaper mobile data for all South Africans, and that our visa regime, which has been raised repeatedly by various people, business and otherwise, facilitates tourism as well as investment. We are firmly on track to implement the reforms that we outlined in the State of the Nation address, and reforms that have been highlighted and even requested by a number of stakeholders in our economy, reforms that are necessary to inject growth in our economy. In March, the long-awaited spectrum auction was completed to expand access to the internet and to reduce the cost of data for the first time in more than a decade. This was a difficult and complex process, and we are grateful for all those who have been involved who made this possible. It took us a decade when it should have taken us much shorter. In April, bid window 6 of the Renewable Energy Procurement Program was opened for 2,600 megawatts of solar and wind power. The first 3 risk mitigation projects have signed their power purchase agreements. These projects represent some of the largest hybrid solar and battery storage projects in the world, and they are happening here in South Africa. The Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill that provides for the establishment of a separate transmission company and a competitive market for electricity has been published for comment. And we are now working to table the final version in Parliament in the coming months. We initiated this believing that it will enhance the better generation of electricity and the transmission thereof, and we will see much better electricity availability in our country. In April, Transnet made 16 slots on its network available to private rail operators as a first step towards ensuring third-party access to some of the country's freight lines. This will enable greater efficiency and support our export industries. And this, in the end, is going to be the private sector and the public sector working together and making sure that we do have a competitive transport line system. The Department of Water and Sanitation is hard at work to clear the backlog of water use license applications by June of 2022. To date, it has finalized 897 applications and will clear the remaining 546 applications by the end of this month. Now, these applications had accumulated over a number of years, and the reform process that we have embarked upon is clearing all these backlogs and making sure that our water regulation system works much better. And through this, we will be able to unlock levers of the economy to enable growth to follow. We are on the cusp of a fundamental transformation in the electricity sector, which is undergoing the most significant reform process in our country's history. Once these changes are implemented, We will have multiple generators competing to supply electricity at the lowest cost to the consumer and selling power directly to consumers. We will unleash new public and private sector investment in generation at a massive scale. In the short term, however, we are seized with the need to get as much new generation capacity onto the grid as possible, but also as quickly as possible. The current electricity shortfall is estimated at up to 6,000 megawatts. We will soon be introducing extra measures to bring new capacity online. We will work to close the electricity gap in 6 ways. Firstly, we will improve the performance of existing power stations and ensure that additional units at Medupi, Kusile come online according to schedule. Secondly, we'll ensure that projects from existing procurement, including Bid Window 5, are able to reach, close, and connect to the grid as quickly as possible. Thirdly, we will accelerate private sector investment in generation under 100 megawatts. Fourthly, we will enable Eskom to purchase surplus power from existing power producers without too many regulations that stop this from happening. Fifthly, we will support municipalities to procure power independently without much regulation standing in their way. And sixthly, we will encourage households and businesses to invest in small-scale solar power installations themselves to feed energy that they are not using to the grid as well. Now, Honorable Speaker, work is already underway in each of these areas. There is coordination with all relevant departments, with Eskom and the private sector to accelerate embedded generation projects that are already on the way to being implemented. We have already simplified the registration process by removing the requirement of a power purchase agreement for registration. We've also shortened the time frames for environmental authorization and increased Eskom's capacity to process grid connection applications. And all these impediments were standing in the way of enabling those who want to generate energy to move ahead with their projects. Now, the reform process has taken out all those impediments, and we are now going to move forward with greater speed and greater determination. The first 2 embedded generation projects under 100 megawatts were successfully registered 2 weeks ago, and a further 16 projects were registered by the regulator this very week. A total of 68 projects are now in development, and a combined capacity of over 5,000 megawatts that will begin to connect to the grid over the next few months is also what we look forward to. Now, alongside these immediate interventions, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy will drive the process of reviewing and updating our integrated resource plan for 2019 to ensure that it remains relevant in the light of the electricity shortfall and our climate change commitments. Now, this is work that is already underway. When the 6th administration commenced its work, we said that forging social compacts across society would be critical to addressing our developmental challenges. Unless We said we consistently strive to achieve broad consensus in the direction in which we want to take the country. We will run the risk of our efforts becoming stalled and even becoming diverted. Since 2018, the presidency has established a number of processes to forge consensus on the broader economic recovery, the fourth industrial revolution, the reform of our state-owned enterprises, climate change, and as well as corruption. We also sought to engage at the presidency level with important role players in our country, such as traditional leaders, to address their specific challenges, including the issue of land. We also sought to engage with religious leaders to address the various issues that they've brought to the table. Deputy President has led this process, will report further on the work that he has been doing. Deputy President has also been engaged and has been delegated to deal with the long-standing challenges that an important community in our country has raised over and over. And these are the former liberation combatants, the people who fought for the liberation of our country, regarding the problems that they have continued to experience. And the Deputy President may well touch on this as he speaks. Now, bringing together key stakeholders with varying ranges of expertise ultimately enhances the capacity of the state. This continues to aid the policy-making process in our country. It ensures that all of society is involved in our country's development. It ensures that those who are able to make a contribution also feel part of the process of building our nation. An example of how this is being done effectively is through the Presidential Climate Change Commission, which is currently finalizing a just transition framework that will guide our transition to a low-carbon, inclusive, climate-resilient economy as well as society. Now we've brought a whole range of key role players who are making a contribution on our climate change ambitions. In tandem, the Presidential Climate Finance Task Team that I established earlier this year is working at an expert level on the agreement that will take forward the Just Energy Transition Partnership, which was concluded between South Africa and governments of France, Germany, the United States, and the United Kingdom, as well as the European Union last year. Now, these are important processes that bring together, I would say, the brain power of our nation, collectively, both in government, in the private sector, and labor, and a number of other key role players. This partnership will mobilize climate finance to enable transition to a low-carbon economy while supporting affected workers and communities. And the work that they are doing will finally be brought to Parliament so that we, as the important key lawmakers, will be able to examine precisely what they have been working on. Our focus will be on supporting a just transition in the electricity and automotive sectors, as well as the development of our green hydrogen sector, which in many ways is beckoning, is calling us to embrace it and to get involved in a much more proactive manner. The work of the Presidential SOE Council is also far advanced. The Council has as its members people from labor, from business, from government, from academia, and many other sectors in our community, in our country. The Council has developed criteria to determine which SOEs should be considered strategic and which are critical for the future development of our country. It has also assessed 17 SOEs and will complete the remaining assessments by July of this year. The broader context of the reform process is to improve the overall business operating environment and to improve our country's competitiveness as an investment destination. To this end, we have finalized the Bounce Back Loan Scheme, which gives additional funding to businesses to grow the economy and also to create jobs. In March, the employee tax incentive was expanded to make it easier for employers to hire more young people. You may recall that this initiative has been hugely successful in creating jobs for young people, for first-time work seekers. And many companies are now expected to participate in this in larger numbers, as it has proven to be a very efficient scheme indeed. As part of our drive to create a new generation of Black industrialists, to create jobs and to transform the economy, last year, government approved 2.5 billion in new support to about 180 Black industrialists in the form of loans as well as grants. Over the next 3 years, a further 21 billion rand has been committed to support Black industrialists, an additional 25 billion to support Black, women, youth, and worker-owned enterprises. Policy certainty in the mining sector has been bolstered by the publication of the long-awaited mining exploration strategy. Now, the Infrastructure Office continues with its work of oversight and coordination over a number of catalytic infrastructure projects and is seeking to ensure that bankable projects come to life and that we speed up the process of ensuring that infrastructure projects do actually get implemented. And these include the bridge rural building process in the rural areas. This also includes rural roads. This also includes social infrastructure, bulk water, installations, and others, to address onerous bureaucracy that often impedes businesses from growing. The red tape reduction team that I spoke about during SONA is working with other departments in government to identify priority interventions as well as to remove obstacles to growth. Now, in many ways, the bureaucracy, the red tape has been what is holding back.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa addressing the Parliament on the achievement of his government so far and future plans. He says the government is working towards economic recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic through reforms and infrastructural development. There was, however, mild drama when a member of the House defied the Speaker to insist that she would not be addressed by a criminal and money launderer. The member was, however, forcefully removed from the chamber.